This is an open letter to His Excellency President William Samoei Ruto, written on this day, Saturday, the 15th of July 2023. Mr. President, the state of the nation is bad. I write this letter and voice it as a concerned citizen. I write this letter knowing so well that you care for this country, that you mean well for this country. Indeed, I had said that if you won the election, which looked unlikely to me, I would look for you and shake your hand and tell you you are a man. It has been difficult getting to you. And that's why, much as I'd have loved to sit down with you and share what I think about this country, I know for now it's not possible. So accept this voice letter. I repeat, Your Excellency, the state of the nation is bad. So bad, Your Excellency, that we run the risk of driving this country into anarchy and finally losing what was once a lovely country, a country we all love. The happenings of the past 2 or 3 months leave me a very worried man. I worry because as an old man, I can't help thinking about my children and their children. I worry about the sort of country people of my age are leaving behind for our children. I'm sure, Your Excellency, it should also concern you that as a father and a grandfather, you'll know the sort of country you want to leave behind for your children and their children. Your Excellency, the state of the country is bad. We are driving ever so close to anarchy. The events of Wednesday this week, Your Excellency, should worry and concern every Kenyan. It should concern you much more than the ordinary Kenyan. Because few countries have walked this path and come out intact. In fact, Your Excellency, many of the countries that have gone down for much less. And therefore, I write this letter, a sad Kenyan, to ask you, Your Excellency, to do everything within your power to save this country from imminent collapse and destruction. Your Excellency, you mentioned this on that Sunday before what would have been a fateful Monday, when you extended the olive branch or leaf to Raila Odinga, which led to the cancellation of that Monday demonstrations. You said, Your Excellency, quoting Winston Churchill, that at times like this, it does not matter who is right. It does not matter who is wrong. We look at Wednesday and we see a country that is not very far from destruction. And I therefore ask you, Your Excellency, to be the bigger brother and to calm down. There are 2 things, Your Excellency, which you need to do. Number 1 is to play the politics right and correct. As President Moi told us, time without number, siasa mbaya, maisha mbaya, bad politics, bad life. It's never been truer than today, Your Excellency. Playing the politics right is to be aware of the situation we are in, the political context of today. Your Excellency, you are sworn in as the president. And my advice is that you be the president of the Republic of Kenya. Your being the president must be evident in both deed and action, in both deed and word. So far, Your Excellency, words coming out of you and your team leave people wondering whether you are aware you have the government and you are the government. Driving while looking in the rear mirror is not one way of driving the country. The current Prime Minister of the UK, who are here has a link with Kitale, as I've said he was inheriting a bad economy in the UK, but undertook to do what it would take to turn around the economy and the politics of the country. Not once since then has the UK Prime Minister tried to apportion blame to the predecessors. And therefore, Your Excellency, you have the reins of power. Can you please govern? Ignore Raila Odinga. Don't make it your business every time to talk about Raila Odinga, Uhuru Kenyatta and Azimio. Advise your lieutenant the same. Because you create the impression either you are not prepared to govern, you did not know what you are getting into, or that you are not even aware you are the government. You are the government. Govern the country. You play the politics right. Even before we talk about inclusion, let's just talk about what we say in public. What we say in public as leaders can either give people hope or you take them down. The people are not happy to hear the Kenya Kwanza government giving excuse after excuse, taking every opportunity, even in a church, to mention Raila more than you mention God. On a development tour, Raila and Uhuru Kenyatta may be mentioned more than the reason why government is in a certain place. So play the politics right. Let's watch what we say. The country is hurting, Your Excellency. By the mere results, whether the results were doctored or not, whether the elections were free and fair or not, but 7.2 and 6.9 would indicate to me a very close race. That the opponent who lost, if he lost, has half the country, and you have half the country. In a situation such as this, in a country deeply divided on ethnic lines, a country that is one flashpoint because of tribalism, when you have half the country, the other guy has half, is only necessary and wise to watch what we say so that we do not rub salt into the injury. This has not been forthcoming. You ridicule the opposition. You say how you won, how God was on your side, how they had the deep state and the system. That's not what to say. Winston Churchill, that you quoted, Your Excellency, he also said this: in victory, we must learn to be magnanimous. And it's for good measure. One, the person down there can wake up tomorrow and hit you also hard. But two, is only human nature. We don't step on those who are already down. In war, Your Excellency, conventional war, dictates that we take prisoners of war. Because the people who have surrendered, why would we shoot them? Why do we kill women and children? Women and children and those who have surrendered, we take as prisoners of war, are equivalent to a man you have knocked and is down. And therefore, that's how we must understand Winston Churchill, that we must be magnanimous in victory. And therefore, playing the politics right is knowing that there is a hurting side of this country. And every word that comes from you reminds people of what they think perhaps is a stolen election. It may not be so. They are hurting. And when you see them doing one or two things, saying things, jumping up and down, you must approach this with the necessary empathy, Your Excellency. If you beat a guy, you know he's going through the stages of grief, for example, that begins with denial, and so on and so forth, and various manifestations of the same. You do not rub salt into the injury by saying the sort of things you and your team have been saying about the defeated side. So play the politics right. And for now, it would mean coming down, seeking your brother Raila Odinga, stopping your people from speaking badly, talking bad things, deriding the opposition, and sitting down with Raila and telling Raila Odinga, I am the President of the Republic of Kenya. And from this seat I occupy, I invite you to sit on that other seat. So long as we are not discussing my seat, for example. Anything else put on the table. And then invite other Kenyans. And we save our country. The second thing, Your Excellency, you will need to do is to remove the carcass. You do not blame, like I saw some young man saying, Kiplagat or somebody, during the struggle for second liberation. There was somebody from university, I think. He was arrested, and in the court he said, during those in Kenya and the rest of things, in the court he said, Your Honor, you do not blame the vultures for hovering around. You blame the state of carcasses around. So, Your Excellency, the vultures are moving around because they have carcasses all over, bodies of dead animals. Work on the situation that makes men and women feel they don't belong to this country. Things that make Kenyans wonder whether they really have a government that cares. Your Excellency, I invite you to look critically at what it is you can do outside the confines of the economic advisors and the IMF and the World Bank, who may not have the responsibility you have as the president of the country. Because if these demonstrations lead to the destruction of this country, and I fear they may, history will indict you. Your Excellency, history will say the very beautiful country called Kenya collapsed during the reign or rule or presidency of one Dr. William Samoei Ruto. That's not a very good line for your grandchildren as they read about the history of this country. And therefore, do whatever it will take to end the pain in this country. And Your Excellency, as much as we know there are factors beyond your control, beyond the control of Kenya, factors that are global, some of which you denied at the moment you are fighting Uhuru and Raila. Ukraine-Russian war, crude oil prices, the dollar, and so on and so forth. There are factors beyond our control as a country. Let us concentrate on those things we can do to ease the pain of living from Kenyans, Your Excellency. Look at electricity and see what tariffs you can remove from electricity, what levies and taxes. Let's look at the independent power producers' contracts and fish out the fake ones and bring down the cost of electricity that will create more jobs in this country through industrialization, through the operation of factories to full capacity by about 50%, even 60%. Look at diesel and petrol, Your Excellency. Look at the levies and taxes there. I know you've touched one or two. Extend your hand, Your Excellency, and pluck out some levies and taxes from oil. Price of petrol and diesel. Bring down the price of oil diesel to 130, 120. Petrol 140, 145. And ease the pain of Kenyans paying transport and many other things that are affected by the cost of fuel. Your Excellency, finally, you tax Kenyans so that you finance a budget that you have bloated. It would have been much better to reduce the budget than to increase it because you don't have the money, instead of taxing Kenyans. Your Excellency, you move around the country in what I hate to say, but in what is clearly populist move, and keep promising roads and other development in a country that doesn't have money. Your Excellency, let's stop that. And Your Excellency, there are low-lying fruits. Stop wastage in the country, in the government. Stop wastage. There's so much wastage. Even before we talk of theft, there's so much wastage. If I was the president today, if I am the president, there will be no overseas trip for anybody. Nobody. There's nothing people are going to do in Europe, in America, in Dubai. Nothing. They're only going to make money. There will be no seminar in Naivasha or Mombasa. Zero. There's nothing they are going to do. I'm talking as a consultant. I know there's nothing. That's just people eating money. Somebody has a house that has reached roofing stage. They create a workshop to make money. Stop wastage, Your Excellency. And then you will look at theft, which we people call corruption. Now, if you look at the things I've said, the collective measures, Your Excellency, together with others, which you can get if you call for a sit-in, people to sit down and help you figure out how we can save the economy for those of us who love this country. We would sit down and figure out what it is we can do to ease the pain of living. So once you play the politics right, Your Excellency, and you work on reducing the cost of living without listening to these so-called economists, there will be nobody in the streets. And our country will be safe. And our grandchildren will inherit a country, Your Excellency. I'm so sure, Your Excellency. So sure. From wherever you'll be as an old man, you'll be happy to see your great-grandchildren living in a nice, beautiful country. And you'll say, I, William Samoei Ruto, helped to make this dream of this kind of Kenya possible. Thank you, Your Excellency.